Welcome to a special edition of Battle Cry from a misty and rainy Bumla sector at the line of actual control in Arunachal Pradesh. While over the last 1.5 years there has been a military tussle in Ladakh, but China has been playing mind games in other sectors too. Over the next half an hour, we'll show you what the Chinese activities are across the line of actual control and how the Indian Army is responding to this in the eastern sector.
As Ladakh freezes, Arunachal simmers. China flexes muscle, but there's zero fear here. Meet the army braves who are keeping China at bay. Up close with India's eastern war machine. An exclusive special broadcast from the India-China border in the east. Battle Cry, Eastern Dragon Defense.
At heights more than 15,000 feet, when temperatures have already started to dip to -5 degrees, the Indian Army is gearing up for a tough winter in the eastern sector. We will show you how the Indian Army is geared up to take on any challenges and misadventure from the Chinese, especially keeping in mind that there is a tough winter ahead when temperatures will dip to -30 degrees.
It's been 17 months since the world's biggest military standoff began in eastern Ladakh. The situation between India and China has frozen up ahead of another long winter. But the frontier between Indian and Chinese territory stretches well beyond Ladakh. 15,000 feet, temperatures dipping with the winter approaching, the Indian Army readies itself at the line of actual control in another corner of India. Welcome to Bumla, in Arunachal Pradesh, in the eastern sector, where the army is busy wargaming for real conflict. India today is on the ground to report India's military preparedness firsthand.
This is the last point where the Indian territory ends. Just behind me is area that is under Chinese control. There has been a heightened alert across the eastern sector in the last 1.5 years in wake of the developments in eastern Ladakh.
Bumla, 37 kilometers from the town of Tawang and 43 kilometers from the China-administered Tsonadzong town in Tibet, is a strategic location as India occupies the heights overlooking the Tibetan plateau.
Roger, right out.
The scenario here, an attack from the Chinese moving ahead with their tanks. The Indian Army responds with complete synergy in a cohesive manner, with all arms being controlled from what is called an integrated defended locality just 2 kilometers from the line of actual control. The counter-attack being controlled from within these bunkers. Not just the army, but there's real-time communication with the Air Force as well if air assets are to be called in.
So now the enemy is pounding the bunkers of the Indian Army. Their tanks are moving ahead as part of this exercise, and we are in that part of the integrated defense locality from where the Indian Army's response is being controlled. The Indian Army artillery guns will repulse the attack, they will fire, and it is from this location that this entire action will be controlled. Is that right, sir?
Yes, absolutely, because right now I'm at the observation post, which is co-located with the company locality, and the communication center is also co-located with my location. This is a special kind of a computer that has been issued to the regiment of artillery. It is called an enhanced tactical computer. It is completely automated and completely secured. My task over here is to observe the enemy activity. The same can be done by me through observation equipment like binoculars or through the information or input given by the infantry detachments that are either co-located or deployed in forward area. They give me the information about enemy's movement. I take up the technical data of that and transmit that to the enhanced tactical computer, which is co-located with the guns in rear area.
As the enemy hits Indian positions, the Indian Army responds with artillery fire targeting the incoming tanks. With the artillery fire disrupting the enemy's forward movement, the counter-offensive reaches the next stage with infantry troops taking position with anti-tank guided missiles.
This is a real-time battlefield scenario which the Indian Army is wargaming extremely close to the LAC. What is being wargamed is that the enemy has launched a massive attack using its tanks. They are moving ahead. The Indian Army has already brought in its artillery guns that are trying to repulse the attack. Also, the Indian Army troops, infantry soldiers in their bunkers are getting ready to take on the enemy that is moving ahead. These kind of war games, these kind of drills are extremely important to be carried out even in peacetime, so that the Indian Army at all times can be battle ready to take on any challenge from the enemy.
These exercises are routine to keep soldiers fit and ready at all times, not just physically but mentally as well.
As we all know, training is a regular process. It has to be carried out every day, every minute, every second, so that we keep ourselves physically fit, mentally agile to thwart any enemy activity or any enemy threat which is posed across against us. This is to depict how a defensive battle is fought, and once the enemy is seen or once the enemy poses any kind of threat, how we negate that threat and how we counter it.
The final assault begins as the anti-tank guided missiles hit the enemy tanks. The troops then move ahead to take full control and dominate the battlefield. Finally, the attack is thwarted and the enemy defeated in this war game. With China carrying out regular integrated exercises for joint military operations on its side of the frontier, the Indian Army has signaled that it's ready and ready to rise to any challenge.
Big artillery guns, upgraded air defense systems are part of the Indian Army's war machinery to enhance its firepower. And the Indian Army is continuously carrying out exercises and making sure that their guns and men are battle ready. Here's a report.
China never shies away from flaunting its big guns and military equipment. Mind games and propaganda are very much part of the Chinese muscle-flexing playbook. India doesn't need to indulge in propaganda, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have its own big guns. And China, mind you, knows it too. When it comes to defending Indian territory, there's no sparing the heavy weaponry. The Indian Army is ramping up its firepower in the eastern sector at the line of actual control. These are M777 ultra-light howitzer guns, a recent induction here. Along with the old Bofors guns, the artillery regiments here are carrying out regular drills, carrying out firing practices and honing their skills. In the tough mountainous terrain of Arunachal Pradesh, the US-made howitzers are a big boost to India's firepower as they can be airlifted to mountain heights by helicopter. The 155mm towed artillery gun was inducted into the Indian Army in 2018 and is now assembled just outside Delhi.
ये बाकी गनों के मुकाबले बहुत ही हल्की है। इसका टोटल वेट 4.5 टन है और लॉन्ग रेंज है। इस गन का टोटल रेंज स्पेशल एम्युनिशन के साथ 40 किलोमीटर है और नॉर्मल एम्युनिशन के साथ 31 किलोमीटर है। इस गन को माउंटेन एरिया में जहां पर व्हीकल चल के नहीं जा सकती, उस जगह पर इस गन को एयर ड्रॉप या पैरा ड्रॉप करके हम इसको अपना जो भी एम है अचीव कर सकते हैं।
The legendary Bofors have undergone an upgrade as well. All artillery gun systems are now integrated, enhancing their capabilities as they can respond within seconds of getting an alert from a location up to 40 kilometers away.
We have Artillery Combat Command and Control System known as Project Shakti. It is actually under the Atmanirbhar Bharat developed by Bell Bangalore. This system has integrated all the systems or the parts which we have under artillery, including the forward sensors which are deployed anywhere in the locations. And what we have achieved from this, or the advantage that we have accrued out of this, is that earlier what we used to take 5 to 8 minutes, now it is the just work of seconds.
And this isn't just about artillery, remember. The Army's air defense arsenal has got a huge boost as well.
The Indian Army has been enhancing its firepower in wake of increasing threats from China at the line of actual control, and this is an upgraded version of the vintage L-70 air defense gun. This was first procured in 1960s from Sweden, and now it has been indigenously upgraded with latest gadgets and all sophisticated weaponry. The range of this gun is 3.5 kilometers, and this certainly adds to the firepower of the Indian Army, and it was deployed across sectors very recently, and now this gun is fully operational and being used by the Army.
The Army's old L-70 air defense guns add punch to the Army's capabilities. They can fire 300 rounds per minute, taking down any aerial threat. With the rate of fire, it can easily take down even a swarm of drones if necessary.
This battle-proven gun has been upgraded indigenously in order to counter contemporary air threats. The limitations of the upgraded guns have been overcome by incorporation of state-of-the-art components with latest technology, making it a potent weapon system against low-level air threat to include unmanned aerial vehicle, unmanned combat aerial vehicle, attack helicopters and modern aircrafts.
Air defense guns like these are positioned at forward locations along the line of actual control, ever watchful for airspace violations and threats. In the exercise that India today is witnessing, the target is a low-flying drone. The gun can detect and bring down helicopters, all kinds of unmanned aerial vehicles and fighter aircraft. The gun was upgraded and after final tests last month has been deployed in these forward locations, souped up and much improved. There has been a big boost to the Army's aviation wing against China as well. With an aim to enhance air operations and support troops on the ground in the eastern sector, the Army has set up its first aviation brigade, recently functioning from Misimara in Assam, bringing together all its assets for better integration and better air power application. Be it the armed Rudra combat helicopters, weaponized and ready for all offensive operations for the Army, or the Israeli-origin Heron drones for surveillance, or the advanced light helicopter Dhruv, meant for troop insertion and evacuations. Rudras, armed with French Mistral air-to-air missiles, 70mm rockets, 20mm chin-mounted guns and anti-tank guided missiles, are lethal for attacks from the sky, aiding troops on the ground in what is called close air support.
The primary aim is that we have this synergized application of the aviation resources in the forward area. It is actually a control center for all the assets of the aviation which are flying ahead. There, as you are aware, the mountainous terrain is full of valleys and the helicopters operate in that valleys. So to have a seamless control over these assets which are flying ahead, we establish the core airspace control center. Basically, the entire planning, monitoring, execution of missions of the aviation happen from this center. Last 6 months, in just a period of short span, we have operationalized ourselves in this entire area. We have synergized our operations with the field formation which are there, not only with just the Army, but also with the sister formation, that is the Air Force, and there is seamless integration of all the missions which will be happening day and night.
Ramping up surveillance and intelligence gathering, the Army has also set up an integrated grid, bringing together real-time feeds from its satellites, drones, ground cameras, radars, and other classified sensors. All of these come together to provide a clear picture of all Chinese activity across the line of actual control.
The Army set up its first aviation brigade in the eastern sector 6 months back, and the idea is to ensure that all the assets are integrated keeping in mind what's been happening at the LAC. From this little room here, everything is being monitored. All aircraft of the aviation arm of the Indian Army are being closely watched at. And if at all there is any action from the Chinese side, that also can be detected and troops on the ground be informed in real time. The idea is to make sure that there is all assistance, be it surveillance or operational intelligence, for troops on the ground. With camera person Satya, this is Abhishek Bhalla from Tenga for India Today. While there have been no clashes or major friction in the eastern sector, China is engaging in psychological warfare. And perhaps that's the reason why the Chinese PLA has been carrying out integrated exercises aimed at joint military operations. But the Indian Army has responded by ramping up its surveillance grid, giving it a better picture of what the Chinese activities across the LAC are.
Only weeks ago, Indian and Chinese troops had collided not far from this sector of Arunachal Pradesh, where India Today is reporting from. The Chinese troops were turned back with a warning by Indian troops. From Ladakh in the north to Arunachal Pradesh in the eastern sector, Chinese belligerence continues. As China scales up exercises for joint military operations in the eastern sector, India has ramped up its surveillance and ever-watchful grid. An increase in patrols has also resulted in face-offs in some of these areas in the eastern sector. The Chinese People's Liberation Army that had come to training areas in big numbers over the last year with their heavy gun systems still remain here.
जहाँ तक एक्सरसाइजेस का सवाल है, जैसे मैंने बताया, वार्षिक तौर पर उनके जो ट्रेडिशनल ट्रेनिंग एरियाज आए, वहाँ पर पहले भी हर साल इनके एक्सरसाइजेस होते रहे हैं. हालांकि इस साल उसकी थोड़ा स्केल में हो सकता है थोड़ी उसमें बढ़ोतरी आई है और थोड़ा ज़्यादा ड्यूरेशन के लिए मेरी समझ में वो एक्सरसाइजेस चल रहे हैं.
The army keeps a close eye on all Chinese activities. India is also beefing up its defenses wherever required.
We also are looking at maximizing the potential or incorporating technology to the maximum extent possible, be it in terms of increasing our surveillance or the ISR capabilities. In certain areas where our deployment was thin, we have strengthened that deployment. But from our side, and specifically from the point of view of the Eastern Command, ours is to make sure that our preparedness levels, our ability to respond, our ability to react to any contingencies that may arise.
The induction of long-distance surveillance drones, radars and night vision capabilities, satellite imagery provides an accurate picture of Chinese activities across the line of actual control. So if you think Chinese propaganda videos only show one side, you're right, because the Indian Army has every capability that the Chinese do and much more.
जो उनका पेट्रोलिंग पैटर्न, उसके नंबर्स या तादाद, उसमें उतनी बढ़ोतरी या उसमें उतना कोई अंतर आया नहीं है. कई इलाकों में थोड़ा मार्जिनल इंक्रीज है, मार्जिनल बढ़ोतरी हमने देखी है, पर ओवरऑल पिछले 1-1.5 साल में मेरी समझ में उसमें कोई इतनी वृद्धि या इतनी कोई चेंज नहीं नजर आई.
Both sides are attempting to develop infrastructure closer to the line of actual control over the past 1 year. With enhanced surveillance, the Indian Army has observed military infrastructure development very close to the frontier. India Today is among the first channels to get you a first-hand view of these frontline developments. There have been incidents of friction in the eastern sector, in some areas like Nakula in Sikkim, where patrols have come face to face in the recent past, and Asafila in Arunachal Pradesh, where there's a difference of perception of where the border really is. Ramping up its surveillance and intelligence gathering, the army has also set up an integrated grid, bringing together real-time feeds from its satellites, drones, ground cameras and radars, providing the clearest possible picture of every single move that the Chinese side is making and plans to make.
Building of infrastructure close to the LAC has been a touchy topic for both the countries. Both nations keep a very close look on what activities are going on, especially in the sensitive areas. However, India continues by enhancing its infrastructure with better roads, tunnels and bridges that give better connectivity not just to the army but also to the civilians living close to the forward locations. Here's a report.
New roads, new tunnels, new bridges. Logistics and access are overwhelmingly war winners when push comes to shove. And in the shadow of the Ladakh standoff, India has pushed access infrastructure in Arunachal Pradesh into top gear. Among the new roads is a new access route from Itanagar, the capital of Arunachal Pradesh, to Tawang, close to the border areas.
Road connectivity has got a big push in the last few years in Arunachal Pradesh, and not only are there now two completely functional accesses to Tawang and then to the LAC, but a third one is also being planned. Also, what is significant is this route where we are right now, which connects Tawang, which is close to the border areas, to the capital of Arunachal Pradesh, Itanagar. Up till now, if one had to travel from Tawang, you would have to go around the entire state, reach Assam and then take another access to enter Arunachal Pradesh. But this route provides direct connectivity from one end of the border to the capital city.
A new road has been planned for Tawang close to the border areas that should be ready in the next couple of years. The access will give an alternate route to the already existing one. Better road connectivity will mean quicker mobilization of troops and also a big advantage to the civilian population here. There are also tunnels coming up in different areas that will help in quicker movement. The region is landslide prone and rough weather in some places often cuts off access. That's where these strategic tunnels will help.
The terrain in Arunachal Pradesh is extremely tough and poor weather conditions often make movement of vehicles very difficult. And that's the reason why tunnels like these are going to be crucial, not just for the Indian Army but also for civilians. There are 3 such tunnels coming up in Arunachal Pradesh that will provide better access to forward locations at the line of actual control.
The Border Roads Organization, under the Ministry of Defence, is at the forefront of carrying out construction work at multiple sites.
This tunnel is going to provide all-weather connectivity while avoiding more than 6 km foggy stretch prevailing near Nechipu Pass. And we are planning and constructing in a manner that 2 pedestrian footpaths will be there inside this tunnel, under which duct is being provided to accommodate OFC line, power supply line and other civic amenities lines.
Very recently, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh virtually presided over the breakthrough blast of the Sela tunnel in Arunachal Pradesh, which marks the culmination of excavation work at this strategic site. The Sela tunnel will provide all-weather connectivity to Tawang through the Balipara-Charduar Tawang road. Even during peak winter, when the Sela Pass is snow-covered, access to Tawang will not be hindered after the construction of the tunnel. On completion, the Sela tunnel will be the longest bi-lane road tunnel in the world at an altitude of over 13,000 feet.
The strategic Sela Pass at 13,000 feet is the highest pass in this access reaching Tawang. This is the gateway to the forward locations along the line of actual control, and it is clearly visible from Chinese positions across the LAC, and that's what makes this place very important, and that's the reason why a tunnel is being constructed so that this area cannot be seen when military convoys move. Also, the tunnel is needed because this point is cut off due to heavy snow during the winter months. With camera person Satya Rautre from the Sela Pass, Abhishek Bhalla for India Today. Thank you for watching this special edition of Battle Cry from Ground Zero, LAC. We'll be back next week with more news and updates. Continue on India Today.